Hello, Synapse community. My name is Ryan Majitimer, and I'm a product manager on the Azure Synapse Analytics team. I'm joined with Diponkar Paul, and it is the July edition of the Synapse MVP video series. Each month, I'm joined by an MVP, and we talk about something that they're passionate about. And this month, it's data masking. I'm going to hand it over to Diponkar for him to introduce himself. Welcome.
Hello, everyone. Hope you're doing great. My name is Diponkar Paul. I'm data platform MPP from Canada. I'm working as a lead data engineer. Today, I'm going to share how sensitive data can be protected by using Azure Synapse Analytics. Azure Synapse offer both static and dynamic data masking. There'll be two videos to cover both static and dynamic data masking. The very first video, I will cover why you need the static data masking and how you can actually implement that by using Azure Synapse data pipeline. And the second video, I will cover why and when you need the dynamic data masking. Also giving you a demonstration showing the granular level of dynamic data masking capabilities by using Synapse Analytics. Before we start looking into the demo, let's have a look when we should implement static data masking. Say, for example, your non-production environment. What is non-production environment? Where the development happen, where tester or quality controller do their quality check. Also, this environment is not used by user daily basis. It means if this non-production environment have sensitive data like personal identifiable information, PII data, that could be exposed to all those people who have access to this environment. For example, developer in this case, or tester, or maybe someone also does this ad hoc basis any kind of query. They all will have access to this environment. And to avoid that or to protect that sensitive data, what you can do is we can implement static data masking so that all those sensitive data will be masked and no one will able to see this data. As an example, if you look at this data in the non-production environment, this data set contains name, SIN number, and salary, which may come from your HR system. So when this kind of sensitive data move from source system and landed to the data lake, we use here the static data masking. That actually masks the data. For example, here name and social insurance number that has been masked, and this masked data is not possible to unmask it. And even more moving forward from the data lake to the database, those masked data still remain masked, as well as when it's moved it to the Power BI dashboard or someone using the Power BI dashboard to access those data, still it remain masked. So through this design, as you see, in the non-production environment, by using the static data masking, your data remain, especially sensitive data, remains safe. Let's look at the demo. So this is where we are. We log into the Synapse Studio. So, you go to the portal, Azure portal, and from there, we came to the Azure Synapse Studio. And in the Synapse Studio, we already have created a pipeline. And that pipeline, what it does is it actually, get the data from source and mask the data and move it to the target. So we have used the data flow component of it. You'll find it under move and transformation. There is this called data flow. We have drag and drop the data flow. As soon as we click the data flow, we'll see there are a few activities there. So the very first activity we have is the source data, where if I click that, you'll find out the source data is. If I refresh it, I should be able to see the data. Very good. As you see, it's a first name, last name, email address, hire date, salary. So this is like Azure data. As you just saw before in an example, it's very similar data. So we got the first name and all PI data here. Now we have one activity that's called derived column activity. In the derived column, what we're doing here is, say for example, first name that would like to mask it, so no one should be able to see the original data in non-production environment. And if you click it, this open expression builder, you'll find out what you're doing. We are using this mask function, like the hash function, SHA256. What it does is this hash function is one way masking the data. It's irreversible. So it means as soon as you mask that data, you'll never get back to the original data. And this is how it is intended, because this is a non-production environment, and all the PI data that we have, we'd like to mask it. So if we can click the refresh button to see, um, even in this drive column activities, what the outcome will look like. See, this is output. So this is the first name. It will show us like this, mass data. And similarly, we implemented the very same things for the phone number and salary. You can do whatever the column you find that is PI data, you need to do it. You can do it very similar. And the next one is we need to go and find out the other activity called sync. What it does is it um, is connect with your target. Means we got the data from source, we mask it, then we are moving this data to that other place. So here is just the other folder. As you see, we put in the cleans layer that data. So if you run it, say let's debug it. As soon as we run it, we expect the data will be masked and it will be under the cleans layer or cleans folder. So still running, just few click. We should be able to see the details, what is happening here underneath. Oh, very good, it's done. It succeeded. So how can I see it? In Snaps, actually, if we go to this data tab and go to this storage where we actually move the data. So under this development, you see there is a cleans folder. And if you look at this timestamp 6/6/22 11:36, that's like 37, just a few seconds earlier. And also with the same timestamp, you'll find the updated record set. And we just can create it and select top 100 rows and run it. Now actually I'm running by using the notebook. See, it's auto-generated notebook. That is also the functionality embedded into the snaps, where you can easily look into or read the Parquet data. As you see, first name has been masked, phone number has been masked. Also, I believe the salary, yeah, salary also masked. Yeah, that's how actually you use the static masking and mask all of your sensitive data. So your PA or PII or sensitive data remain very safe in non-production environment.
So you mentioned static data masking, and we'll cover dynamic data masking in the next session. The question is, are those the only mechanisms for an organization trying to protect their sensitive or PII data?
Thank you, Ryan, for the great question. Beside the static or dynamic data masking, Azure Synapse also offers column level encryption, where actually you can encrypt those columns that got sensitive data. Not only that, you can also implement a row level or column level security by using the Synapse analytics to protect the sensitive data.
Well, thanks for joining us, Diponkar, and talking about static data masking. Tell us in the comments, do you use static data masking? Again, my name is Ryan Majitimer. You can find me on Twitter. You can find Diponkar on Twitter. Paul, SWENGRR. You can also find Azure Synapse on Twitter. Azure_Synapse. In addition to that, you, yes, you, can become an Azure Synapse influencer. It's very fun. All the cool kids are doing it. I am an Azure Synapse influencer. In fact, I am a champion. Thanks for watching the July edition of the Synapse MVP video series. Tune in for next month. Like, subscribe, comment. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the next one.